I remember the exact moment I realized silence could be louder than any scream. The phone vibrated against the worn oak table, its insistence breaking through the quiet that had settled over my life like dust. I had been living in echoes for 2 years, 2 years since Dorothy had left me to navigate a world that no longer felt familiar, where laughter was only a memory, and every room in the house whispered her absence. And now, after all that time, Jake, my son, was calling. Dad. His voice came through the receiver, and for a second, I didn't recognize it. It was familiar, yes, but filtered through something. Strained, rehearsed, as if he were testing his words before speaking. Thanksgiving. We'd like you to come. I froze. Thanksgiving. The word brought a flood of memories so vivid they made my chest ache. The way Dorothy would hum in the kitchen, rolling dough with a precision that bordered on ritual. The smell of roasting garlic and sage filling the house, cinnamon dusting the air like powdered sunlight. I could almost feel her hand on my shoulder, guiding me, telling me everything would be all right. And for a fleeting moment, I allowed myself to hope. Then the text came. Get up. Leave now. The food is poisoned. My hand trembled, the phone slipping from my grasp. My heartbeat roared in my ears, poisoned. The word repeated itself in my mind, each syllable sinking into my chest with a weight that made breathing difficult. My son, my own flesh and blood, was somehow involved. Or at least someone close to him was. The thought twisted me in ways I wasn't ready to confront. Yet even as terror coursed through me, curiosity anchored me. There was a stubborn part of me that wanted to believe in family, in the idea that maybe, just maybe, this was a reconciliation, an olive branch extended after years of miscommunication and absence. But the other part, the part that had survived life's harshest blows, knew better. Instincts honed from decades of business dealings and careful observation screamed danger. I spent the night wandering through the remnants of Dorothy's life, each room a shrine to a past that no longer existed. Her ceramic roosters lined the mantel, their painted eyes forever watching. The quilt she had stitched from scraps of her old clothes lay folded on the couch, untouched. The living room smelled faintly of lavender, her favorite scent, though I hadn't touched a candle in years. Each object was frozen in time, preserved as if moving a single item might erase our shared history. I thought of Jake and Veronica, her husband, or partner, or whatever label they used in their curated world. They had built a life I barely recognized, polished and perfect, yet lacking warmth. Pictures on social media depicted smiles that felt hollow, laughter that seemed like it had been bottled and shaken before being released for the camera. And now they wanted me to sit at their table, to be welcomed into a home that had been constructed for display, not life. I couldn't sleep. I sat in the darkness, staring at Dorothy's old piano, its keys still gleaming, imagining her fingers dancing across them, filling the air with music. The text warning me about poison replayed in my mind. Who had sent it, and why? Maria, the housekeeper, or someone else entirely? Questions multiplied, each one heavier than the last. By dawn, I had decided I would go, not out of hope, not out of forgiveness, but because I had to understand. I had to see the danger with my own eyes, to navigate the treacherous waters before them. And perhaps, just perhaps, to save something that still mattered in a world that seemed bent on destruction. As I packed my bag, I glanced one last time at Dorothy's photo on the mantel. Her eyes, always so full of warmth, seemed to pierce mine. I whispered her name softly, as if speaking it aloud could conjure courage. And then I left, stepping into the grey Dallas morning, knowing that by nightfall, nothing would ever be the same again. Stone Hollow Heights looked less like a neighborhood and more like a showroom. Perfect lawns, silent streets, houses that seemed built to impress strangers rather than shelter families. Jake was waiting outside before I stepped out of the car. "Dad," he called, smiling wide enough to show teeth, but not warmth. He hugged me too quickly. Veronica stood behind him, graceful and composed. "Edward," she said softly, "we're so glad you came." Inside, the house gleamed. Marble floors, tall ceilings. The scent of roasted turkey and herbs filled the air. For a moment, it felt almost comforting. Then I saw it. The cranberry sauce, Dorothy's recipe, orange zest curled delicately on top. The same crystal bowl we used every Thanksgiving. "How did you manage that?" I asked. Jake smiled, found Mom's recipe book. Something in his tone felt practiced. We sat at a long walnut table set for more guests than existed. Candles flickered. Wine was poured. "To new beginnings," Jake said, raising his glass. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I didn't check it. I moved food around my plate carefully, taking small bites of bread but avoiding anything drenched in sauce. Jake's eyes followed my fork every time it drifted near the cranberry bowl. Veronica leaned forward slightly. "You should try it. It tastes just like hers." Just like hers? I picked up the spoon. Both of them stilled. Instead, I set it back down. "I'll take some home." The shift was almost invisible, but it was there. Jake cleared his throat. "Dad, have you thought about retiring?" There it was. "I'm managing fine," I replied. "It's just," Veronica added gently, "stress can affect memory. Coordination. Doctors see it all the time. Memory, coordination." They were building a narrative. Jake slid a leather folder across the table. "Precautionary paperwork. Temporary power of attorney. In case anything ever happens. In case anything happens." I flipped through the pages slowly. Signatures marked, lines waiting for mine. "You look pale," Veronica said softly. "Are you feeling all right?" I smiled. "I feel perfectly fine." Jake's jaw tightened just slightly. The phone vibrated again. When I excused myself and checked it, the message was brief. "Don't sign anything. They're counting on confusion later." When I returned, dessert had been served. The cranberry sauce sat closer to me now. Jake watched. Veronica watched Jake. I folded the documents neatly and placed them back on the table. "I'll have my attorney review these," I said calmly. Silence stretched. "That's not necessary," Jake replied quickly. "It is," I said. I stood, adjusting my coat. "Thank you for dinner." As I walked toward the door, I felt it clearly now. This had never been about reconciliation. It had been about timing. And I had just refused to follow the script. Outside, the gates closed behind me. For the first time that evening, I allowed myself a steady breath. They thought I was fragile. They were wrong. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I parked beneath a flickering streetlight 2 blocks from my original restaurant. The first one Dorothy and I opened with borrowed money and unreasonable faith. I sat there in the dark, the leather folder on the passenger seat beside me. Power of attorney, medical authorization, asset transition agreements, everything prepared for a version of me they clearly expected to exist soon. Confused and stable, dependent. My phone buzzed again. "You handled it well." I stared at the message before pressing call. She answered on the second ring. "Mr. Harper, Maria," I said quietly. She had worked in our home for 15 years. Dorothy trusted her with everything, from recipes to secrets. You heard them? I asked. Yes, she replied. Last week, in the study. Veronica said the dosage had to be gradual, enough to look natural. Natural? Are you certain? I recorded it, she said. The security system still backs up audio. They didn't know. I closed my eyes. Jake hadn't even checked the house systems. He thought modernization meant control. Who else is involved? I asked. A man named Victor Lang. He's been reviewing your company structure with them. Victor Lang, an investor known for dismantling family businesses and reselling the parts. Efficient, cold. They're planning to declare you unfit. Maria continued, after a few weeks of decline. A slow poisoning, a public narrative, signed papers. Clean legal. I felt something unexpected settle in my chest. Clarity. Send me everything, I said. Audio files, dates, times. There was a pause. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know how to tell you. You just did, I replied. The next morning, I sat in my office overlooking the diner kitchen. The smell of fresh bread rose through the vents. It reminded me why I had built all this in the first place. Not for wealth, for legacy. I dialed Marcus Hale, my attorney of 20 years. Marcus, I said when he answered, I need you to draft new documents. Immediately. What kind? He asked. The kind that don't require my son's signature. Silence. Then, carefully. What's going on? Edward. I looked out at the restaurant floor below. Waitresses moving. Customers laughing. Life continuing. My family, I said evenly, has mistaken patience for weakness. And that was their first error. Marcus didn't ask unnecessary questions. By noon, he was in my office, sleeves rolled, glasses low on his nose, reviewing the audio Maria had sent. We listened in silence. Veronica's voice came through first, calm, clinical. Small amounts, nothing dramatic, confusion, dizziness. Doctors won't question it at his age. Then Jake, how long until he can't manage the board? A few weeks, she replied. We'll say we're concerned. The recording ended. Marcus leaned back slowly. They're not improvising, he said. This is structured. I know, I replied. We moved quickly. New estate documents. Immediate restructuring of voting rights. A temporary external trustee assigned. Someone with no emotional leverage. My medical records updated with independent evaluations from the specialists Marcus trusted personally. If they planned to question my competence, I would make it legally inconvenient. But paperwork wasn't enough. Victor Lang, Marcus muttered, scrolling through financial reports. He's been quietly acquiring minority shares through shell companies. So that was the deeper play. Not just control of me, control of the company. They're preparing for a sale, Marcus said. Over my signature, I replied. By evening, I made a call I had avoided for years. Jake answered on the third ring. That, I've been thinking about what you said. I began evenly about retiring. A pause, subtle, but there. That's good, he said carefully. I don't want to manage day-to-day operations anymore. It's exhausting. Veronica's voice murmured faintly in the background. Hookset, I'll host dinner next week. I continued. Just us. We can discuss next steps. Jake didn't hesitate this time. That sounds perfect. After I hung up, Marcus looked at me over steepled fingers. You're inviting them into your house? Yes, to confront them. No, I said calmly. To watch them, to see how confident they'd become. Predators grow careless when they think the hunt is over. I walked through my home that night differently. Not as a widow clinging to memory, but as a man preparing ground. The security system was updated. Cameras tested, audio feeds confirmed. Dorothy's portrait hung above the fireplace, her eyes warm and knowing. "They think I'm fading," I murmured. But grief had only hollowed me. It hadn't weakened me. And next week, at my table, they would show me exactly how far they were willing to go. They arrived precisely at 7. Jake carried a bottle of wine. Veronica brought dessert. They looked relaxed, almost relieved, as if the hardest part was already behind them. My dining room felt smaller than theirs, but warmer. Real wood, real memories. Dorothy's portrait watched from above the fireplace. "Smells good in here," Jake said. "It's your mother's recipe," I replied. That made Veronica pause. We sat. Plates were served. I ate carefully, but visibly. Enough to reassure them. Enough to let confidence grow. Halfway through the meal, I sighed. "You were right," I said, setting down my fork. "Managing everything alone is exhausting." Jake leaned forward. "We only want what's best for you." "I know," I said softly. I slid a folder across the table. Jake's eyes lit up for just a fraction of a second. But when he opened it, the color drained from his face. Transcripts, bank records, Victor Lang's shell acquisitions mapped clearly. And at the top, a printed transcript of Veronica's voice. Small amounts, gradual. Doctors won't question it at his age. Silence swallowed the room. Veronica recovered first. "This is ridiculous." "Is it?" I asked calmly. I pressed a button beneath the table. From the speaker in the corner, her voice filled the room again, clearer this time, undeniable. Jake stood abruptly. "You recorded us. You planned my decline." I replied evenly. "I documented it." His composure cracked. "You don't understand how business works anymore." "No," I interrupted. "You don't understand how I built mine." I stood slowly. "The board has already been informed. So has my attorney. So has the police." Veronica's mask finally fell. Not fear, anger. "You destroy your own son. You tried to erase me while I was still alive." Jake's hands trembled, not from guilt, but from realization. The sale wouldn't happen. The control wouldn't transfer. The narrative of my confusion had collapsed before it began. "You could have just trusted me," he muttered. "I did," I said quietly. "That was your opportunity." Blue and red lights flashed faintly through the curtains moments later. I hadn't called them tonight. Marcus had. Jake looked at the door, then at me. For a second. Just one. I saw the boy who used to sit on this very floor building toy towers while Dorothy laughed in the kitchen. Then the man returned. They left without another word. The house fell silent again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. I walked to Dorothy's portrait and stood there for a long while. "I protected it," I murmured. "What we built." Outside, the siren faded. Inside, something steadied. They thought age meant weakness. They forgot something simple. I survived every stage of this empire, including betrayal. And unlike poison, truth works fast.